Hello, writing workshop. So just so you guys know, right now I'm filming this video live with my first hour B group. Everyone say hey. I highly doubt you heard that, but that's fine. There are 9 people. And there are 9 people who are live with me in the classroom as we record this. If you haven't done your journal entry yet right here, I do want to know what controversial topic you plan to discuss in your persuasive research essay and why you chose it. If you need to do some research, if you need to look at the prompt a bit before you can write that one, I highly encourage you to do that today. The one thing I would ask maybe by the end of the day is that you complete this journal so that we can get started on researching. Let's look at our lesson agenda. Purpose of this lesson here. Right now you are in our overview of outlining and the research process. It's really our next step forward in writing our research papers. You'll notice you can use the rest of our time. So if you've got some time after you watch this video today, I do want you to continue researching and outlining for your essay. We'll be working on outlining big time over this next week. So just know I'm going to build in time in class for this. But I do want you to have the tools you need to start researching. Next week, on our first lesson, we'll cover apostrophes real quick. It's another quick and easy little punctuation mark to master. And then we'll have, obviously, more time to outline. Let's look at this outline here. If I click on Persuasive Research Essay Outline, you should have a digital copy of this document you can fill in. But I do want to walk you through the steps of outlining here. Yours should be up here where it says My Document. Mine's going to be right here that I'll click into. And I'll do a little bit of demonstrating here. I don't quite have the time to write a full outline right now, but I do want to at least get started with what this might look like for you. My in-person learners in the classroom right now, feel free to do this for your own if you like, but as we're working later this hour, I'll be roaming to help you with this step too. So something to note right here, as it says, this outline allows enough space to plan out 5 paragraphs for your essay, an intro, 2 body paragraphs, your counter argument, and a conclusion. You can certainly write more paragraphs for this if you like. Really the main thing I'm looking for structure-wise on this essay is length, somewhere between 3 and 5 pages. I should say, if you need more body paragraphs, probably the best way to structure your body paragraphs is to have 1 for each argument you make. So if your thesis establishes 3 arguments, you'll probably have 3 body paragraphs. If it's only 2 arguments, 2 body paragraphs. If it's 4 arguments, 4 body paragraphs. It's up to you, just how many different arguments you want to have. Another thing, I only included enough space for 2 pieces of evidence per paragraph. If you've got more, you can certainly add more. So this is kind of a bare bones outline. You can add as much as you like to this. Just remember, I'm looking for 3 to 5 pages in length. That does not include your works cited page. I'm going to say don't worry about works cited right now. I'm going to teach how to construct those in a different lesson. So for me, because my second hour class really got talking about abortion, I'm going to use that as my example. It's one that I will not ask you to write your essay about, just because we're using it as an example here. Whenever I outline, I start with my thesis, because I know it's going to govern my thoughts. For this one, I think I'm going to use, I'm just looking at my whiteboard for my stances here. I'm going to say something along the lines of this. I'm going to say the United States should not overturn Roe versus Wade. Roe versus Wade is a Supreme Court decision that generally legalized abortion in our country. Should not overturn Roe versus Wade because, I'm going to do a 2-sentence thesis. Should not overturn, I'm going to go the other way. The United States should overturn Roe versus Wade because abortion, or I'll say because life begins at conception. That's just my own personal stance right there. And I'll fix spacing here in a moment too. However, I'm going to take a yes but statement, right? However, states, individual states, should be able to make their own laws. Before Roe versus Wade, individual states had the right to legalize or criminalize abortion. I think, personally, the United States should go back to that setup. I'm just using that for this essay right here. Now notice, I start with my thesis statement. If I wanted, I could do my attention getter right here. I could give my background sentences. But for now, I'm going to leave those blank. I'll allow you to work through those on your own. As a reminder, for attention getters, you want to use a strategy that gets your reader's attention. A statistic works, an anecdote works, famous quotes work, setting the scene works. You want to find one that works well for your topic. For background sentences, I'm going to leave a note for myself. little reminder that, what's the word I'm looking for? Little reminder that in outlines, you do not need to write incomplete sentences. I'm just going to leave a note for myself right here. I'm going to say explain or give context, give history of Roe versus Wade. So in your background sentences, you want to identify why this is a controversial topic. I'm going to skip the rest of my intro for now. Generally, I write attention getters later whenever I'm writing an essay. I just wanted to leave myself a note there. Body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2 are structured exactly the same, so I just want to walk through the process of a body paragraph. I'm going to start with a topic sentence, and usually I divide up my body paragraphs by arguments. So for this one, I'm probably going to begin with the point that that abortion should be illegal because it is murder. That's probably exactly what I'll say, right? Of murder. Am I making a strong statement there? Absolutely. I want you to know that in a research paper or in a persuasive paper, you can make strong statements. If I were to say something like, I think abortion should not be legal, I've automatically made my statement weaker just by saying that. It's okay to make strong statements. You're going to be backing it up with research anyway. Notice from there, I get to balance between evidence and commentary. For evidence, I'm either going to use direct quotes from my research or paraphrases from my research. It's good to balance both when you're writing an essay or a research paper. I have not done my research yet for this one, so I'll go through the research process here in a moment. As I find research, I'll pop it into my evidence. We'll see if I have time for that in this lesson. I may or may not, but we'll take a look at that later. For every piece of evidence I use, whether it's a direct quote or a paraphrase, I'm then going to explain it in commentary. So commentary is where I would use my own words, 2 to 4 sentences. Notice that C and D here are optional. They're there if you need them. I'm going to use that to explain my evidence and why it shows why abortion should not be legal. I haven't done research yet, so I'll look at that in a little bit. Notice, in each body paragraph, I've given you space for 2 pieces of evidence. You can add more if you like. I wouldn't go any less than 2 pieces of evidence per paragraph because you need to have enough support. Notice that so I can move on to my next body paragraph 2. The other part of my thesis was that states, individual states, should be able to write their own abortion laws, right? I'll use evidence and commentary to support that point as well. Again, I haven't done research yet, so we'll see. For my counter-argument paragraph, notice that I'm going to state what the opposite side says and refute that argument. In my topic sentence, I should probably state what the opposite side says first. So I might say something along the lines of proponents. A proponent is someone who supports something. An opponent is the opposite. Proponents of Roe versus Wade claim that access to abortion is a fundamental women's right. Right? So I'm just stating what the opposite side says. I might explain in evidence 1 why that is somewhat valid. I may just start refuting it right here, right? In my evidence 1, I'm probably going to point out once again that that even though it is a woman's right to her own body, there's a second body to consider that as well. It's the baby. It's the fetus inside of the womb. Again, haven't done research. Not going to add that just yet. Again, I've got 2 spaces for evidence there. I could go more. I could go less. I could decide to use evidence to support what proponents of Roe v. Wade would say. I could just start refuting it right there. It's really up to you what you want to do. And then conclusions, restate your thesis. I generally like to change the word order on mine. I might say something along the lines of, that decision, I might say handcuffed. That's a nice verb. Handcuffed states from making their own laws, something like that. In my summary sentences, I'm going to summarize the main points from my body. Again, I'm going to look back at my research for what I use there. For my final thought, generally this is the absolute last thing I do when I'm outlining. This might be another spot where I just want to give a little brief idea right here. When you're writing a research paper, a final thought can give your readers something further to think or something further to do. I'm going to give my readers something further to do because Roe versus Wade is something that we, as citizens of the United States, actually have a little bit of a say in. I might say something along the lines of, because we have an election coming up, I'm just going to say, I don't know what sentence I want to use, so I might say something along the lines of mention voting for pro-life candidates. Something along those lines, right? Again, I don't know exactly what I want to say for my final thought yet. Sometimes I don't even write my final thought until I get to the very end of my essay anyway. But I just want to give myself a little note to remember what I want to say when I get there. Just a reminder for you guys that you do not need to write outlines and complete sentences. The only ones I would recommend that you have to write in complete sentences are your thesis. I did a 2-sentence thesis here. And then if you're direct quoting evidence, it's wise to do your direct quotes as early as possible so you can just copy paste them into your paper later. I'm going to leave my outline open because as we talk about evidence, I want to walk you guys through the research process as well and then give you guys some time to write on your own. Let's go there. Once again, I have in-person learners as well, so I encourage them, if they like, to follow along with this PowerPoint. I'm sure a lot of this is review from what you know anyway. Let's go there. Overview, outlining in the research process. And you'll notice a little PowerPoint here. That mine is huge. I don't know why it ended up so big. I think I'll open mine up in PowerPoint itself. Give me a moment. So as far as the research process goes, researching information, finding the evidence for my essay is a process I need to walk through. If I take research too lightly, I'm going to make mistakes in research and weaken my paper. Since it is a process, it comes in steps. Step 1 is to write research questions. Thankfully for you guys, this is a step you've already done. After you select a general topic for research, mine is abortion, the first step is to write questions that will guide your research. A little pro tip for all of you, your research questions make for great database searches. So for instance, if I want to find evidence about Roe versus Wade being overturned and what arguments are made, I can just type in my question, should Roe versus Wade be overturned, into Google, and it should pull up some good resources there. In informational research, so like the project you did in English 1 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you would likely need a series of questions, a bunch of different questions about pirates, for instance, if you had Miss Im, to aid in collecting lots of information. In informational research, you're just presenting stuff, right? For persuasive research, you might only need one research question, likely your topic itself. Again, mine is, should Roe versus Wade be overturned? Again, you've done this step already. As you're researching, if you find yourself getting stuck, you might want to think about adding one more research question and seeing what that pulls up for you. The step where I'm at right now for my paper is finding reliable sources. And you guys have covered this over the last 2 years too. You guys know that the internet is a wonderful tool for finding answers to our questions, but it's not regulated very tightly. I'm curious for my in-person learners in here. You guys can answer this question. What websites can you think of that are great for finding information, but not necessarily great for research? Oh, someone said it. Say it louder. Wikipedia, right? What's the issue with Wikipedia? Exactly. So while Wikipedia is a wonderful tool, if you want to get some quick information, we know we can't trust it credibility-wise because anyone can write it on it as an author. There is a trick with Wikipedia that I hope I can show you in this video, but we'll see. Because of this fact, we do have to evaluate the credibility, how trustworthy any potential source is. One tip I would give you for reliability now is a website's domain name. In general, .org means organization, .gov, government, and .edu, mostly colleges, are the most credible. They're generally trustworthy sources. If you see those are like grade A sources for research usually. .coms, .nets, and .infos are probably the most common domain names on the internet. They do need to be carefully examined, and I'll show you a process for that in a moment. If you see any other URL endings, any other domains, .io, .tv, .ca is Canada, .uk is the United Kingdom, .biz is business, be extremely careful of any URLs that don't end in org, gov, edu, comnet, or info. So just be extremely careful. The test that I like to use just in evaluating whether a source is reliable is the CRAP test. Everyone say CRAP test. C-R-A-A-P. So 5 things to look for when you're evaluating a website. Currency is one of those things. First of all, if a website does not give you a date for when it was published, that's an immediate red flag. We want to be able to know that our information is current. I would not generally trust a website that looks like it was made in 1992. That would make it 28 years old. That's my age. So I would be careful about things that look old. Even things that are posted as being old. Has the information been revised or updated? Gives you a clue as well. So if you're researching, let's say I'm researching abortion, right? Well, a lot of the debate done on abortion has been done over the last 5 years. It's a pretty changing topic. So if I'm reading an article that was written in 1999, probably not good for my research because it's too dated. It's too old to be current. Another thing there, are the links functional? If you're on a website that seems broken, links don't work or they lead nowhere, it's got annoying clip art, those kinds of things, that's also a red flag. Relevance is another one. So simply, does the information relate to your topic or answer your question? Who's the intended audience? If a website looks like it's built for children, it's probably built for children. You guys are young adults. We should be practicing for college here. Is the information at an appropriate level? Same thing. Have you looked at a variety of sources? Simply means, do other sources verify your information? So if I'm reading an article that says that Roe versus Wade was passed in 2008, and then all the other ones say that Roe versus Wade was passed in the 1970s, I can throw out the one that says it was done in 2008 because all the other sources verify that it was done in the 70s. Authority is probably the most important one. Like we talked about with Wikipedia, who is the author, publisher, source, or sponsor? On Wikipedia, we cannot possibly know who writes what information because it's crowdsourced. Generally, authors are listed at the top or bottom of an article. So are the author's credentials or organizational affiliations given? What are they? What are the author's qualifications? The most important thing for you guys is to make sure there is an author in the first place. Accuracy is another one. Where does the information come from? Is it supported by evidence? These kinds of things. This is more or less a question that will help you spot fake news. So you can kind of check websites for their reliability, making sure that the content is actually true. Generally, on fake news websites, they do have to clarify in their publishing information at the bottom whether they're satire or not. So you can check that if you're not sure at the bottom of a website. And then the last thing, whoops, I don't want to slide down. The last thing is purpose, the reason why the information exists. Is it clear that the author makes his or her intentions clear? Is there some kind of bias in this website? So if I'm researching Roe versus Wade and I'm on a website that's very clearly like a heavy right-wing churchy website, right? I might not use it just because I know it's too biased for my information. Is it propaganda? Is it objective? You want to go for the most unbiased information you can find. Numbers don't lie. Statistics are probably the best for verifying your information. Next step, let's say I found some websites that I like for finding information. Next step is to collect it. I'm running low on time in this video, so I don't think I'll demonstrate this process. But as you research, you'll want to keep track of any specific details. You might want to direct quote or paraphrase. Direct quoting is taking exactly what an author writes and representing it as exactly in your writing. You would place that in quotation marks. Paraphrasing is taking what an author writes, what one of your articles or sources says, and paraphrasing that in your own words. Kind of curious from my in-person learners right now, what are some methods you can think of or methods that you've done before for organizing your findings? You've got 5 articles out in front of you. How do you keep track of what you want to use from those articles? Or what have you done in the past to kind of record the info you want to use? Yes, dear?
Write them down.
Yeah, write them down where? I'm just kind of curious.
I always have a piece of paper on it.
Nice. So Ariana says that she keeps a piece of paper out with her even as she's researching online. She just tracks down pieces or the evidence that she wants to use, any direct quotes or paraphrases or statistics that she wants to use, and then from there she can transfer those into her paper later. Any others that you guys have used before? Yes, dear. Yes, highlighting. So for one, printing out articles if you have that ability and highlighting them. If you're an annotator, you like to mark inside of your writing. That's a great way to do it. Highlight information from the articles that you have. It helps you to sift through that information when you're writing. One more thing I would recommend, you have an outline in front of you, right? Feel free, if you see something you like in your information that you know you want to use in your paper, just move it straight into your outline. Copy paste it or write it down on paper and then transfer it later. It's not a bad idea to use your outline as a place where you can track evidence early. Whether you choose to quote your research directly or paraphrase it, you do need to use parenthetical citations, in-text citations, to give credit to your source. In MLA, which is the one we'll be using for this class, citations prefer the author's last name. If no author is listed, use the title of the article or website. If you have page numbers, I know a lot of websites don't have page numbers. They should be included if you have it. So for instance, let's say I'm reading an article that has page numbers on it, and it's written by a guy whose last name is Hantak. My citation will look like this. At the end of my quote or paraphrase, you have to do both, or you have to do this for both. I would put parenthesis, Hantak 15, it's a page number. Let's say I don't have an author name or page numbers, I would just use the title of the page. It might say Citation Basics. Note it goes in quotation marks, and the parenthesis, and then my period. We'll get some more practice with this as we actually write in the coming weeks. Last step is to cite sources. Now this is one that I really don't have time for in this lesson to demonstrate, so I'll actually make it part of next week's lessons. For this project, you will need to write a full citation for each source you quote or paraphrase in a research paper or project. The purpose of this is that if your audience wants to verify something that you write, they have a way to look up that information, look up that source. In MLA, we list sources alphabetically by the author's last name in a works cited page. I know you've done these in the past, but they are kind of annoying to write, so again, we'll walk through that in a different lesson. If you're in college and you're studying science or social sciences, you'll likely use APA. It's called a references list. It's basically the same thing. Chicago Turabian is the crazy citation style. If you're going to be studying history, business, I think fine arts uses it as well. It's called a bibliography, and it looks very different in that context. So just keep that in mind. I do want to show you what a works cited page might look like. I've included this link to the Purdue OWL. It's one of my favorite grammar websites on the internet. I'll just go there real quick. Sample works cited page would look something like this. So works cited at the top of your page. Again, I'll demonstrate how to create these in another video. But then from there, they list their citations in order by the author's last name. So an article from the New York Times by Cornelia Dean is first. A movie review by Roger Ebert next. Another article from the International Journal of Development from John Gowdy. It goes on and on. But I'll demonstrate this step for you later on when we have a little more time. You guys have been great. My in-person learners have been great. I know it's watching a teacher create a video is not the most exciting thing in the world, but I do want you to know you have access to, go back real quick, you have access to the very same PowerPoint I walked you through in Schoology, so you can walk through that if you need a reminder of the steps in the research process. You also have access to a virtual copy of your outline for you to start typing ideas. As a reminder, this outline is not due until the end of next week, the end of Friday the 9th. That gives me some time to give some feedback before you start drafting. My recommendation is that you start chipping away at this today and just fill in what's easiest for you first. So for instance, if I wanted to start finding sources, I might type in, let's see, my question was, should Roe versus Wade be overturned? It pops up in the automatics just because it's a controversial topic. Notice the first thing that comes up is a Planned Parenthood website. So I know that's going to be something that argues that Roe versus Wade should not be overturned. I'm not going to use that just yet, but I might use that for my counter-argument paragraph. As I research, if I find a source I like, I can start pulling information for quoting or for paraphrasing later on. I'm not going to dig too deep into that right now and waste your time because I know you guys can use your time to research too. I'll go back to our lesson agenda real quick just to make sure I didn't leave anything out. Lesson agenda. No, all it says is use the rest of our time together to research and outline for your essay. If you've got time today, I recommend that you start finding sources, start finding some evidence to support your stance. Your outline, once again, is not due until the end of next Friday, October 9th. Keep in mind, we're going to be spending quite a bit of time on this essay, so it's okay to take the process slowly. This will be another one that I allow you to revise after it gets graded in early November. Best of luck to you as you start writing. Feel free to reach out to me if you need help.